All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And today we are going to be talking about a couple of different RPGs that we've been playing and some other games like that. But after that, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 3. It's coming out tomorrow night. So we're going to talk about our expectations for the games, maybe go over some of the early reception of the game from some of the reviewers. And then we're going to transition that into Crosscode. Been announced for the Switch. We're excited to talk about that. And then, man, Eric, he demanded that we talk about Metroid Prime 4 today. So I said I'm not gonna get in the way of this discussion. So we're gonna be talking about that, even though it's kind of venturing off the path, but it should be a good discussion regardless. Then the possibility of a Demon Souls remaster or remake could potentially be on the horizon. And then we got some comments from last week's episode. But as usual, before we get into all of that, Eric, what have you been playing this week?
Oh, I got chock full to talk about. First off, Resident Evil 2 came out this weekend, and I've beaten the Leon story. For anyone who's not familiar with Resident Evil 2, there's two campaigns you go through. There's two characters with their own campaign, Leon and Claire, and they have their own separate paths and stories that they follow through. And over the weekend, I beat Leon's, and I've been starting Claire's. I think I have about 2 hours into her, and it is a fantastic remake. Like, this is like how you do Remake 101. Like, I say that for the first Resident Evil remake also, but the second one is like also gets credit for that, because it faithfully keeps everything intact, except they modernize it. Or the better way to put it is they modernize it without compromising what fans loved about the original. Right. And at the same time, they were able to bring in newcomers with this type of game. So they really found a sweet spot for the best of both worlds for this game. It works really well as a remake, and it works really well as a modern AAA game.
Yeah, I was going to pick this game up, but I got distracted with some other games, so I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But the reception for this has been really, really good. I've been surprised. A lot of times with these remasters, or I guess really, like you said, it is a remake.
Reimagining. I would go as far to say that.
Yeah, but a lot of times with these types of games, people prefer the original for nostalgic purposes, but I've seen a lot of positive comments. One thing, and I think you kind of alluded to with the reimagining that I did see, was that people have noticed a lot of the dialogue is not necessarily the same. Apparently, it's that stuff's been updated and some of the scenes and stuff.
They fleshed out characters more.
Yeah, it's not in a bad way. So,
well, in the original game, like the characters you saw before they die had like a few things to say, then they just often die. Like a famous one is your lieutenant, Leon's lieutenant, is alive for just like long enough just to tell you something and then give you the item you need. And in the remake, he's around for a lot longer, and he has more of a supporting role. The events turn out the same, but we got to know this character more. We actually got to appreciate more of the characters that were stationed at this police station. And it's a really nice touch.
So, have you beaten this version of the game yet, or are you're still trying to get through it?
I beat Leon's campaign.
So, knowing that, can you say at this point in time that you feel this is the definitive version of Resident Evil 2?
Yes, it is. I mean, you got the best of both worlds. There's some people that prefer like the Resident Evil 4 formula, where it's like over the shoulder and you have easier aiming control. And then you have the people that are more nostalgic to the tank controls of the first three games.
I'm not.
And what they did was they brought in 4's gameplay style, but they brought in 2's original survival instincts and like survival horror instincts. Like you're very limited on ammo. You have to learn to conserve. You have to know when it's a good idea or a bad idea to fight zombies. Um, you always got to run from the tyrant. You got to be tactful around the lickers,
Hmm.
and it gets very tense. I mean, when I was playing it night that night, just like I would open the door and the tyrant just like busts through, and it just scares the living crap out of me. And I'm just like running, and I'm panicking because I have this item in my hand, and I'm not near a save point. So
Hmm.
when there's both lickers and a tyrant coming after me, it is so nerve wracking trying to get that. And on top of that, when you actually manage to find a place to hide, you can still hear the tyrant's footsteps around. So you're just like praying he does not find you and he goes away. It's so great. But if it was a game like Resident Evil 4 and 5, I would just like go guns blazing on it, and but no, they kept the survival horror aspect of this game intact, and it was just beautifully done.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to pick it up. It's just I got distracted with a couple of other games, but didn't you say you actually got some substantial progress done on another game?
Yes, by demand, someone requested that I go through Phantasy Star 2
It's a
and
good
give
game.
my thoughts on it because it's been a long while since I played it. And
Yeah, me too.
wow, I mean, the game's fantastic. It's a beauty. It's a classic. I mean, definitely there. I forgot how dark the ending of that game is, and how dark it is for almost every scenario. Like nothing. Well, spoilers ahead. Spoilers for Fantasy Star 2. Turn off thing right now if you don't want to hear it. Is nothing good happens to the heroes ever. Like you get like even as like the near the beginning of the game that there's a hunter who wants to kill your companion Nai. But so you go and find his daughter through a series of events, and you bring her to him, but for some reason she keeps her disguise on, and his
Mhm.
father accidentally kills his daughter, and in turn he kills himself. I'm like, oh
Yeah, I remember that scene. I was just like, "What? What? No." It was pretty crazy.
yeah, and then well, I'm sorry, Nai or Nay, one of the two. Like
Yeah.
your secondary protagonist, she dies like midway through the game, and all this crazy stuff happens, and it turns out like Dark Falls and Mother Brain
Hmm.
are like have been seeking to like destroy the people on the planets, and they succeed in blowing up the very planet that you saved in Fantasy Star 1. Like they pulled like a Star Wars on it, and it's pretty insane. And you when you defeat the Mother Brain in Dark Falls, you go and you find out it's been humans from Earth that have been behind everything all along, and they've been using Mother Brain to make things like prosperous and
Hmm.
uh, eradicate who's living on these planets off. And the game's story ends with Rolf and his party about the clash with the humans and the spaceship, and it ends there. You don't know who won.
The thing that's always amazed me with Fantasy Star 2 is the ambitiousness of the story, right? Like, and for the like era that it came out, I think it came out in like the late '80s, didn't it? I feel like I need to look this up. Um,
Um,
Let me see. Fantasy Star.
I think Fantasy Star 2 was either 88 or 89. Because I know
See,
Fantasy Star,
89, March 21st, 1989.
yes.
So yeah, man, like that was almost 30 years ago, and if you think about it in that context, the story in that game is just fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic regardless, but especially for its time, compared to like all the other games that people usually talk about, right? Like, um, Okay, like Final Fantasy, for example, that came out December 18th, 1987, Final Fantasy 1. And, okay, compare that story to Phantasy Star 2 story and tell me which one you think is better. I would go hands down Phantasy Star 2 all day, every day. And, you know, it's...
I kind of want to see what it looks like in the PS2 remake. I really wish they localized that. There's a means to play a translated ROM version of the remake, but I really want to see what this looked like in the remake. I do want to play through those one again when they through, because I played the first Phantasy Star remake.
Are you talking? I know that there was a Japanese version that came out, you know, obviously only in Japan, but like you said, it was a PS2 remake, but like it actually had, I don't want to say PS2 graphics, but it looked like it had like kind of like in between PS1 and PS2 graphics, but obviously it was a big upgrade over the original.
It was high quality sprites.
Yeah,
like they did. I would like compare it to like a HD remaster.
Yeah, because some of the like, you know, the towns and stuff, some of them are like the artwork is a little basic, I think, for some of the towns and stuff. It gets by. I mean, but you know, the enemy sprites and like the animations during battle and like, you know, like the little scene sketchboard, storyboard type things, all really well done. But yeah, I'm with you, man. It'd be really cool if we could get an English translation of that PS2 version. That'd be really, really cool.
Because I will say, the original 2 games are great, but they're during that time where you got to go grind heavy on them to make it through dungeons. Like, you've got to make sure you have the latest stuff, your party members at a certain level, because the dungeons in Phantasy Star 2 in particular are so ridiculously long that you're just pulling your hair asking for it to stop. Yeah. But I hear the remakes, the PS2 remakes, have mainstreamed the games a little more to make them more approachable.
So the dungeons aren't quite so long.
Yeah, so if you really do want to play these, but you don't want to embrace the old school elements the first 2 games have, there is English English patches for the ROMs for the PS2 versions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, someone went out of their way to make those, and they're really good. I don't remember where. Just Google it.
Yeah,
but they do exist. If you really want to play these first 2 and you want a little more modernized, there is a way to do it.
It's baffling they haven't released that on another platform in the West.
I would have thought they put on tablets.
Or yeah, they can put little crappy advertisements over it or something. Yeah, like they did with the other games.
Great game. I recommend it to anyone that likes old school RPGs. Simple as that.
Very cool. Yeah, so I'm very, very impressed that you got through that entire game before Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out. That's that's very ambitious of you, and you did it. Congratulations.
No, it wasn't like a weekend play. Like, on my downtime, I would just like pick it up. Like, if I'm not in places where I'm playing the main games, I just like grind through it, and then when I get grinding through it, then I do like a legit playthrough on it and make it through like a significant amount of content. Then I hit another roadblock, start grinding myself.
So it was over a longer time frame. I get it. It wasn't like you started on Friday and then
no,
got some energy drinks
for that. Yeah. I would the only way I could accomplish that is a Game Shark. Yeah. No, I could not beat it that fast.
Yeah, I feel you. So I was kind of looking at my situation with Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out. I finished Kingdom Hearts 1. It's a good game. Anyways, well, we're going to be talking more about Kingdom Hearts over the next week or 2, probably longer than that. So, but I wanted to get through a game that, you know, was not Kingdom Hearts, but I didn't want to start a new game. And I still been doing some Vesperia progress, but I realized, you know, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out. What am I going to play? So Leanne in the comments was really wanting us to talk about, at some point in the future, Deltarune, which came out, I think, basically it's I don't want to say sequel, but it's the game made by the creator of the Undertale series. He only released the first chapter, so it's like 2 or 3 hours, and it came out in September, I think, something around there, and we just never got around to it. And I told myself, okay, I'll play this, but first, before I play that game, I want to go through Undertale again, but I want to do a pacifist run, because initially I just played the game and like I wasn't like, I knew you could talk your way out of enemies, but you know, occasionally I would kill an enemy if it was just annoying and just get through the game. So this time I went through legitly and did the pacifist run, and that's first off, let me just say that's a really, really good game. Especially the second time through, I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm really, really impressed with how Toby Fox, the creator, was able to design a game in which every single battle is unique if you're going through a pacifist run, because you have to figure out how to talk the enemy out of the battle. And usually it's not, you know, there's 2 or 3 options, but you have to wait for a hint usually from the enemy, or you can look at a strategy guide if that's what you want to do. But there's a lot of, you know, talking to the enemy, and then also each enemy's attack will be some unique type of dodge mechanic that you have to do to try to get through the battle without dying before you can spare the enemy and continue on with your adventure. And it's just really, really enjoyable to play it from that mindset, because I found myself actually feeling attached to a lot of the characters just because, you know, I'm going out of my way trying not to kill them, right? And so it's that much more rewarding when they eventually turn onto my side. And I was just really, really impressed overall. Like, he's a very, very talented individual, very quirky sense of humor for sure. But like, I'm very, very impressed with Undertale, even on the pacifist run. I'm not doing the genocidal run because apparently that permanently messes up your game save and you can never load the game again without deleting the game. So I'm not going to do that, but very, very impressed. Did you ever play Undertale at all?
When it first came out. And
yeah, so it's been a while.
It was an aggressive run for me. I've never done pacifist. That's what I was trying to do on the Switch one, but I had other stuff come up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for trying Deltarune pretty soon, just not right now. It's I have another Eden coming out tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Boom. Yeah.
You can already download it now, but the server maintenance won't be over till 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. But that one I'm really excited to play. It has some developers from Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross who made it, and he and our guest last week just has hyped me up so much about it. I am super excited to play it. And of course, tomorrow night is Kingdom Hearts 3. So these 2 games are going to get a heavy amount of attention from me. But that isn't to say that I'm not going to look into Deltarune. It's just there's just too much from these 2 games alone. And I had a little demand for Phantasy Star 2. I did want to meet that a bit.
They can choose your battles. But
I got to prove I can meet demand, because Trails in the Sky didn't work out that way for me.
Unfortunately. Yeah, you know, I didn't really know anything about Deltarune. For some reason, I thought Deltarune was going to be like a DLC type deal or something for Undertale. That's how little I knew about it, given the fact that it's a free download. And so that's why I was like, you know what, let me do a pacifist run, because I feel like the game kind of urges you to go the pacifist route if you don't do that. So I really feel like that's the way you're intended to play it. Well, I mean, I think you're intended to go through it regularly, and then I think it intends you to play it again as pacifist run. So I wanted to play the game completely, legitly, so that way I actually could go into Deltarune like refreshed with everything that happens, you know, with the changes that happen because it's a pacifist route. And lo and behold, Deltarune has nothing to do with Undertale. So I went through Undertale for virtually no reason other than my own pure enjoyment. And I downloaded it. It's basically like Undertale, except it's not involved with the story. So it's kind of interesting in that it's kind of got the same quirky graphic style. It's a little more detailed than Undertale. And I was reading an interview with Toby Fox, and he said that it's going to take him a long time to come out with this game just because he's trying to, the graphics are more detailed than Undertale, but it's the same type of quirky style. It's very recognizable. A lot of the same enemy types that you would talk to are characters. So it's kind of a callback to Undertale, but what's different about it is you actually have a cast of people in your party. So, in Undertale, it's just you fighting enemies, whereas now you have a whole, party-based combat. You still have to go, it's still the same type of combat, though. You can still attack, or you can try to talk the enemy down, and it's kind of got that vibe, but he's released only Chapter 1 thus far. It took me about 3 hours, but I was going around talking to everybody. But thus far, the story is really, really good. I don't want to spoil it for anyone because... there is only 3 hours to play. So if I talk about the story, I'm just going to spoil the entire 3 hours. But there's going to be some recognizable characters. I don't know if they're the same people, but they're recognizable character models, I should say. So I'm excited to play the rest of it eventually when he gets it done. But apparently it is going to take a while. So it's really, really good, though. If you liked Undertale, I would definitely check it out. It's a free download, like I said, so there's no real reason not to. The only annoying part is I had to play it on my computer, and my PS4 controller wouldn't work, so I had to sit there and use the Z, X, and C key. And
is it on Switch by chance?
I didn't look. That's a good. I should have looked, but I assume not. So because I looked on Steam and it wasn't on Steam, so I assumed if it's not on Steam, it wouldn't be on Switch.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you all should check it out. It's got really humorous scenes. It'll make you laugh, make you tear up a little bit, depending on who you are. But it's a good start to a game. With that said, we've been trying to find games to play all month so we wouldn't get caught up because of an event that's happening tomorrow. Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out tomorrow evening. And a lot of people did not think this was going to happen, but it's finally here. We're already starting to see reviews this past week for the game for early release copies, and reviews thus far have been all over the board. So I really don't know what to expect. GameSpot gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it was IGN that gave it an 8.7 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I don't know what to think, because that's just like all over the place. Like there's a big difference between an 8 and a 9.5. But what it seems like is the 9.5 out of 10s and other similar reviews are from people that are like hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans, and they can pick up on a lot of the little scenes they'll add to kind of call back to previous games. But from the lower review tier, it's for people that haven't really played Kingdom Hearts before, so they're missing some of the stuff. But it was still an 8 out of 10 is still good. 8.7 out of 10 is great. But
doesn't it have like an 89 overall on Metacritic?
Is it right now? Let me look. If it does, that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I expected. I read a few reviews. I didn't watch any video reviews. I didn't want to be spoiled of anything. Mm-hmm. But it all sounds the same to me.
Yeah, it's got an 88.
They like the gameplay. They like the Disney worlds, but as everyone expected, the story's convoluted. It's you have to be a Kingdom Hearts fan to really understand everything. This is what everyone was expecting. It's exactly what it is, and it'll be interesting to see anyone legitimately shocked when reviewers say this type of stuff. And I don't even really know why Kingdom Hearts fans are so bent out of shape for any review scores for these games, if they are.
No, it's okay. So the GameSpot score of 8 out of 10, the video review, last time I looked at it, okay, there's 1,000 likes and there's 1.5 thousand dislikes.
Whoa, you don't mess with Kingdom Hearts fans.
Yeah, and people in the comments are like, dude, an 8 out of 10 is good. It's not like he gave it a 6. But people were not happy.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It's like Zelda. You know you're going to pick up the game. If you're a Zelda fan, you know you're going to pick it up. You don't care if it's not the best Zelda ever made,
Hmm.
or it has motion controls, or it makes you go back to a stupid ocean temple.
Yeah.
You're going to buy the game because you're a fan and you want to play it. Same thing with Kingdom Hearts fans. You've played every game. You even bought Recoded, even though Recoded was not that great. It was okay, but not great. And it's like, what review would properly motivate you to not buy it? Like,
Yeah.
if the game was like a complete broken mess on a technical standpoint, a gameplay standpoint, and a story one, it's like, okay, I can see that, but no, the lowest scores it's getting is like a 8 or maybe like a 7.5 or something. And I mean, if that's the lowest it gets, that's pretty good. Because
Yeah.
even really high rated AAA games like Red Dead Redemption 2 had scores down to that level also. So, every critic is different and they look at different things and they score things differently. And on top of that, some of them do a 5 score system and put it on Metacritic for some reason. So when they put like a 4 star, it's like with 5, I'm
80.
bad at math. Yeah, that's an 80. So when they
Yeah.
say 4 out of 5 stars, that turns into an 80. But that's probably not how the reviewer looks at his rating system.
Hmm.
Like every reviewer has a different standard of what their numbers are, which is why I'm always I say the numbers are relevant in that for how the public perceives them, but not as a whole. I think the numbers are a waste of time because, like, especially like on Metacritic, I know we're just like gushing about it having an 89, but that's just for the fact of just getting other people excited. I
Hmm.
really wish that people would stop using scoring systems and just make a review and you read it and you make your own opinion of.
Yeah. I can kind of like I can go both ways because as a fan of various different titles, I totally get it. When the game's about to come out the next day, I can't help myself. I'm like, oh, let me look at some of these reviews. Maybe not like into them too detailed, but I want to see the final score because I'm curious to see, is this a garbage dump of a game? Did they just because it does happen with like Mass Effect, Andromeda. A lot of people were looking forward to that game, and it ended up being not so good, right? So I'm trying to think back with Final Fantasy 15. Like a month before that game was coming out, I was convinced this game is going to be like a new direction in the franchise. We're turning this ship around. This is going to be a great game. And then when I started seeing the scores come out, and I saw 8.5s, I was like, okay, well, that's not terrible, but like, that's not like a return to form that I was looking for. So I totally get like if you're a hardcore Kingdom Hearts fan, why you'd want to look at these reviews. But just like you said, like an 8 out of 10 isn't bad. They're not trashing the game. Like it's just like not everyone's gonna. It's not. I think everyone can agree Kingdom Hearts isn't everyone's cup of tea, and maybe he didn't want to review that game. Maybe he doesn't like those games. Whoever reviewed it and gave it a 8 out of 10.
Chances are a lot of these reviewers are not up to snuff on all the lore that
Yeah.
of Kingdom Hearts because that's really the only way to truly enjoy it is just knowing everything that was before it.
Well, and that's what I read, and I think it was the Game Informer review that I read that was a 9.5 out of 10. I'm not gonna. That's all. You can go read that review if you want to, but just a quick little tidbit of what they said. Nothing substantive here that's going to spoil the game, but they said that there were a fair amount of scenes that they were glad were put into the game that reference small details from previous games that if you're up to speed on all the games, like you would appreciate. However, if you've never played the game before, there's still enjoyment to be had. You're just going to be looking at the scene and not know, like, it's just going to be, kind of like another throwaway scene, right? You're not going to get, it's not like it's took up an enormous amount of time, but it's just a little Easter egg you're not going to get. So there's going to be a little bits of pieces of enjoyment that you may not have that some of the more seasoned people have. But I mean, you see that in a lot of different games. We saw that, and I hate to bring it up again, but Final Fantasy 15, when Prompto starts doing the victory fanfare, which was super corny, but it made me laugh. If Final Fantasy 15 was the first game you ever played, you probably didn't understand why he was humming that, right?
Yeah, you have enjoyment of that garbage of
it. Right. So, I mean, I think that's a fair point to have, and I think really I've thought about this sometime today, and I really think that it would be cool if more websites would have like one review for like the general player, right? Somebody that's just going to pick up the game because they're interested, and then another review for like the hardcore player, right? I know that's not really something you can do for most games, but there really is a big difference because somebody might really, really enjoy this game who's a hardcore fan, but if you're not, like, this is the first Kingdom Hearts game you ever played, you might pick it up and be like, it was okay. And like the Kingdom Hearts fans just having a brain aneurysm because like what are you talking about? Like, this thing was amazing.
Well, I have to play the game first to truly determine if the story is good or bad.
Yeah, it might
as a
be
Kingdom
great.
Hearts fan.
Yeah, I'm just taking what other people said. I obviously haven't played it.
It could still be lackluster. The payoff maybe could potentially be lackluster. I mean, Recoded wasn't like a great story. I know it's based off like a cell phone game way back then, but it as a game itself felt pointless, like a waste of time. Kingdom Hearts 3 is obviously not going to be a waste of time.
Yeah.
But um but I'll definitely make the opinion of if it's a good story in regards to for Kingdom Hearts fans, or if it's a good story in general that anyone can enjoy. That part's definitely remained to be seen. Reviewers from some of the red felt mixed on some things,
Mhm.
but they don't really say what. Like, I don't know if I just haven't been reading the right things, but they don't really specify if it's good in its own context or if it's good like in general that anyone can enjoy it.
Right.
But another thing to say real quick is the people who look at the reviews again, like a part of it is definitely they need some form of like confirmation bias type of deal with
Yeah, they
their
need
game and
someone
series.
else to acknowledge what they like is good.
Yeah, because I can imagine people would hate the idea of a franchise they love so much getting ripped on by people.
Yeah.
Like, I
Hey,
don't know if
I'm
there's a
I'm
good
guilty of that
example.
sometimes.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, I'm
I don't
I'm
know.
guilty of that.
I'm trying to
I,
think.
I've
I'm trying to think of any situation
I've
where
brought
I've
it
been
up.
like, "You're wrong."
I brought it up on this podcast. Shadow Hearts, the first game on the PS2, that got like a 6.5 out of 10 from IGN, and everyone that's played it is just like, you're crazy. There's no way, And other reviewers at the time were giving it like a 9 out of 10. So it was like very much an outlier. But I remember seeing that like, what are you talking about? So I totally get it. If you like something and you feel like somebody's not giving it its due. But I mean, if the lowest is like an 8 out of 10, like an an eight's pretty reasonable. That's a good game.
I feel bad for critics like Jim Sterling who gets doxxed when fans don't like the score he gets. Like, you can question his reviews. Like, even I
Mhm.
have questioned his reviews, but like, he gives something like a 7.5 when everyone's giving it like a 9 or 10, and he gets doxxed for it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Well, and he looks at it a very strange way. He looks at like 5 is like an average game. So a 7.5 on his scale is supposed to be like fantastic, but the reality is everyone looks at the rating scale like a 7.5 is a 75% C. That's just passing. That's not great. Whereas an 8 out of 10 is a B, and I could see why people get mad, but it's just numbers, people. It's
He,
just numbers.
he's a known harsh critic, and he has no problem slapping a low score on a game. In Kingdom Hearts, he's very likely going to review, and he's probably going to give it he's probably going to dock a lot of points for it being for the story, probably in particular. He will probably hit it. But I mean, color me surprised if he rates it relatively high, but probably won't. And you should probably prepare yourself for it. But at the same time, you don't need someone like him to confirm if the game is good or not. It's
Yeah.
like you ultimately, at the end of the day, it only matters if you like it or not. So don't worry too much what other people think about it. Like even with Final Fantasy 15, we've had several podcasts where I have like me and have just railed on it, just like to the point that we just make fun of it. It's a joke. Final Fantasy 15 is just a joke to us now. But if you legitimately like the game, you don't need us. You don't need our approvals for it if you even care about it. Like if you enjoy it, that's all that matters. If you enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3 and you see other people just railing on it, just saying like, "Oh, this is the worst one ever. It's worse than 1 and 2." Like like
By a mile.
stuff like
Yeah.
that, like by a mile. It's like if you enjoyed it, that's all that matters. Like, give your opinion, debate, that's cool.
Mm.
But you don't need other people to confirm it for you.
Yeah. Just to tack onto that, I think that uh, if anyone's curious for a really good, it's not even like a review, but it kind of is. But it's first off, it's a hilarious video. But this guy, he does the best reviews. But go over to Kotaku, their YouTube page. Check out the Kingdom Hearts 3 review over there. First off, it's hilarious. The first 6 minutes of it just had me rolling laughing because he's just talking strictly to Kingdom Hearts fans. But he goes into a part 2 where he starts talking to non-Kingdom Hearts fans, and basically he just said, look, like Kingdom Hearts 3 fans are going to enjoy this. I think they'll love it. You coming in blind, the best way to look at this is we could try to say the story's too complicated for you to understand, but generally speaking, if the person looks evil, they're evil. And if they look good, they're good. And you're trying to defeat the evil guys. And you've probably watched all these movies before. So that should be familiar enough. Don't stress yourself out. You know?
Yeah.
And like that's all you need to know. Like it's like if you don't want to get stressed out about the story that much, you can just follow it at a very like surface level and just know that like okay, like this guy is bad, he does bad stuff. I'm good. I need to defeat him and enjoy running around, with Pirates of the Caribbean. And that's like half of what Kingdom Hearts is about, is enjoying all these worlds. So I guess it just depends on like what's important to you.
Or if anything, you buy Kingdom Hearts 3, play it, and then you play the previous games and see how it led to that.
Yeah, there's always that. So I haven't really seen too much on whether people have felt, well, obviously the game's not coming out till tomorrow, but the review copies, whether the intro movie or whatever that was going to kind of recap you over the entire series, whether that was going to be good enough. But apparently the fact that it's not really mentioned, I don't know. I guess it's not really a thing. I'll be excited to see what's going on with that because I've gotten through Kingdom Hearts 1. This is the first time I beat it. I played a lot of it in the past. I played Kingdom Hearts 2. I've never beaten that one. And I've seen little bits and pieces from the other games. So I'm not necessarily going in blind, but I'm going in pretty blind.
So Kingdom Hearts police is going to come after you.
Yeah,
you got to do Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, 2, 358 over 2 days, Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, fragmentary passage, fat cover.
It's not happening. Honestly, and I'll tell you,
I will allow that.
Man, Kingdom Hearts 1, like just going through it again this time and actually completing it, that game, and I don't know if it's the same with some of the other games, but like it's just such a roller coaster of like, man, this is good. I'm having fun. And then you get to like one world where it's just crappy and you're like, this is terrible. I like, for example, like I think the Aladdin world, like the second half of that I enjoyed, but the first half of that I remember this when I was a kid thinking this too. Like this feels like you tried to condense the movie in like 6 minutes. Like this, the pacing on this is horrible. But other areas are really really enjoyable. So I don't know if I could. I don't know if I can muster the strength to go through all these games. So who knows? I might get Kingdom Hearts 3 and think like, Jesus Christ, I need to go through a lot of these side games.
I think it was Tarzan, Monstro, and Atlantica I didn't enjoy in Kingdom Hearts 1, but the other ones I was just.
Yeah. Well,
Especially
they're
Atlantica,
wrong.
both in the first and second game.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind it too much, but I just kind of I let go of the plot and I was just like, whatever. This is going to be
Kingdom Hearts
this
1 has a really simple plot. It's really
when I say
it's
let
after
go.
2 where it just starts going off the rails.
When I say let go, I'm like saying I'm letting go of not like over analyzing it, just like letting it just be a surface level. Like, okay, this is bad. Let's stop this, and like not really putting much effort into, like, well, is that the best way the scene could have been executed? Like, what if they had done this? I'm just not going to do all that. I'm just going to go in there and enjoy running around in the worlds. Like that's what I got out of it. So I'm not saying I'm not following the story, but I'm not going to go. I don't feel like that's why I would want to play it. So
Yeah, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 also, I'm already prepared for this. So I'm just going to embrace it and just let it be what it is and just enjoy it regardless. I mean, the writing's always not been great. Like, there's a lot of awkward scenes, there's awkward pauses, and, there was a lot of cardboard face and animated face transitioning like crazy that just
mhm.
felt so jarring. I don't think 3 is going to have. I hope not, but at least not in the scenes that don't call for it. Um, but yeah, I mean, the writing's always been iffy, but the character interactions and like you wanting them to succeed because you care about them, that's what's always been intact for me. Like even like Birth by Sleep, which I felt like had pretty horrid writing between like all three of the characters.
Yeah.
Still, so for some reason, I just want to see them be okay at the end.
Mhm.
Like I just want everything to turn out right. Like I want these characters to be saved.
Yeah, I was kind of I get what you mean because on one of the streams last week in which I was playing a different games, people were kind of talking in the chat about Kingdom Hearts, and I said, I'm going through Kingdom Hearts 1 right now, and something I can't really put my finger on was like, especially since I'm playing the PS2 version, like the controls suck. Donald pisses me off. Like the plot and certain parts are just super cheesy, and for some reason, I still look forward to playing the game because I'm still having a good time with it, and I can't put my finger down on like what is good about it. And obviously, that's an older game. I was playing the older version. I know the remastered version. It fixed a lot of the games or a lot of the control issues because you know it they remade the game, and I'm
Yeah,
sure Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be much much better. But I it just kind of has that like enjoyment factor, and like I don't really know how to describe it.
like if I can make a comparison, like Kingdom Hearts may have bad writing, but it has a great world set up and it has great, it's great to explore the Disney world and it has a cast of likable characters and a cast of likable villains. Like you like to
It's
hate
a good
them
way to
type
put
of
it.
deal.
Yeah.
And now we play Final Fantasy 13, like the writing is not good. The world building is not great either. The lore is pretty good, but like I have such a no interest in in anything because I don't like the characters. There's almost no one in Final Fantasy
Yeah.
13 I really like. And because of that, I don't really care what happens to them. Like
Well,
if
and I
they all just like died from getting hit by a truck, I'd be like, "Oh, well, that's the end of the story. Who cares about them?" But like Kingdom Hearts, it's like, Sora, you're such a goofy little good boy, but I like you.
yeah,
You're
and I think
you're enjoyable little good boy.
And I think we've talked about this before, but I think the reason why it works in Kingdom Hearts and it doesn't work in Final Fantasy 13 was I think it just comes down to character development. I mean, if usually people don't like characters when they're supposed to like them, right? The writers wanted you to like the characters, and if you don't like the characters, that's because they didn't have good character development because you couldn't identify with the characters. That's probably why you didn't like them, right? It was hard to empathize with them. Whereas with Kingdom Hearts, and I'm sure somebody's going to disagree in the comments, but I mean, with Kingdom Hearts, I mean, yeah, you can identify with Sora a little bit. You can understand being, jealous. You can understand wanting to save people, and like all these characters from these movies. Like you've watched the movies, and you feel like those characters, and like you can identify with, what they went through in their movies, and like I think that's kind of like why it's so enjoyable, at least for me. So.
Yeah, and there, like you said, there is some good character progression there. Like the Riku from the start of Kingdom Hearts 1 feels like a very different character to the point he is right now. Like that character growth is really significant because his ideology at the beginning is just like radically different. Like he's learned, he's experienced, he's overcome his problems, and now he's at a point where he's like all zen like maybe to the point that like his story is already done. I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 yet, but like a lot of times I feel like in the series that his story is done. Like he overcame the darkness, but I'll be excited to see how they use him more in 3. Maybe the focus will still be primarily Sora, because Sora admittedly has been a little one note through the series, but Dream Drop Distance actually did bring something interesting for Sora to conflict with. And I think they're going to expand upon that in 3. So I'm actually excited to see that.
Yeah. I can't really talk about that because I haven't played Dream Drop Distance. I've heard people say similar comments to what you said. So I'm certain that's an accurate statement. But aside from the story, Kingdom Hearts 3, from what I've seen, man, yesterday I was looking at some game footage, and woo, that gameplay looks good. Like it looks really, really tight and like just really, really unique and interesting. And I think like at least from a gameplay perspective, I think this is going to be a major leap forward for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it just looks like a thrill ride. Just every time you watch the previews, like I remember they released the Pirates of the Caribbean preview. Just him like swimming through the water and jumping out of it.
Yeah,
and like just fighting off Heartless and like gunship.
Kraken.
Or like ships battling each other. It was just like an adrenaline rush. I was like, yes, give me the game now.
And what I'm impressed too is like each new world is like its own unique little like menu system and own unique like costume design and own unique like method of battle. And it's just they put a lot of like.
Now, granted,
this feels like a Nomura game for sure.
2 did do that also. They did make unique menus for each one.
Yeah.
But this one obviously looks a lot better. I mean,
it's been a while since I played 2, so
they improved upon that. So yes, it's very gorgeous looking, and I mean, what I have just read the previews, the menu system looks legit. Like the UI doesn't feel too intrusive. It's just looks as great as it did in the previous games.
Yeah. So
the one thing I was hoping there would be, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, is I was hoping they'd make some kind of hotbar type system, so you would have a better access to like magic and abilities and items. But I think it works the same way as it did in 2 or similar. I'd have to play it to fully know, but that's just what I heard. Someone can confirm me and say I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. So if I am wrong, just let me know. But I'll find out myself tomorrow night.
So man, I'm kind of in a dilemma. So I pre-ordered the game from GameStop because I was like, I need to support GameStop, even though they've done some shady stuff, because I don't want them to go out of business. because I got some good deals on used games there, and I just like having a game store that's not like that's primarily what they do. So I pre-ordered my game there, and then they called me yesterday, and they were like, "Okay, like your game's pre-ordered. We can sell it to you at 9 p.m. However, the doors open at 6 to get a number, so I can get like a numbers for your place in line." And I'm like, I forgot about that. I don't want to get in a line, but that's fine. Whatever, I'll do it. But I'm just like, man, already I'm like, I just wish I just pre-ordered it on Amazon, but it's all good. But I actually have something I have to do after work. So I feel like I'm probably not going to get there till like after 8. So I feel like I'm going to get a really crappy number, and I'm going to be in the back of the line. So I don't know if I'm going to even be able to play it tomorrow night. I might be, because I feel like once I put it in my PS4, I'm going to have to wait for like a download, and then I guess I'll get to play it for like a half hour or something. But
Well, how they do it at GameStop particularly is they let you buy it before 9.
yeah.
Purchase it. They put like a sticker with a number on your receipt. So when 9 o'clock comes, you show them your receipt. They'll pick the number from the pile, give it to you, and everyone's in and out within 10 minutes.
See, that's kind of how I felt, but he told me that this was going to be a number for my spot in line. So I just took it as like, you guys are having me do a lot. I don't know. But regardless, we'll see what happens. It looks like we have some comments here. Daniel says, "Hey, fellas, first time I've caught you live." What's up, Daniel? Then we got Carly says, "Hey, shout out to you guys. I never get to catch a live stream, but you guys are awesome."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for the
that.
shout out.
Yeah. So that's good to know. I'll let y'all know what happens in the next podcast. But needless to say, next week we're definitely going to be talking about our first impressions, I would imagine, with Kingdom Hearts. I don't see any reason not to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna pick it up at 9. I'm gonna be home by 9:10, and I'm gonna pop it in there, let it do what it needs to, and then I'm gonna go downtown on that game. I'm gonna. It's probably when I'm gonna 100% complete.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I'll 100% complete it, but I'll play to my heart's content. And if that leads me to play 100%, then.
Well, I'll 100% complete normal mode.
Did you get the okay? Did you get the special edition for $10 more or whatever?
No, just regular.
It comes with the art book.
It's just a steel case and the art book. I don't care about that crap anymore.
Yeah, when they offered that to me, I thought about it for like half a second. I was like, no, because I couldn't see myself sitting on my couch like looking at the art book. I just can't see that, and I don't care about the steel case. Yeah, I can look at all the artwork online. Sorry. So
yeah,
is what it is.
I mean, but if you're a fan, it's $10 more. Why not?
Yep, gotten the PS4 version, so I think it'd be good. Moving on though, we have Crosscode. This is something you sent me, which I did not think was going to happen. But Crosscode, the indie game that came out on Steam last year, officially, it's coming out on Switch. And this was something that apparently was never going to happen. You were telling me the developer of the game said, like, because of the way it was coded, it would never happen.
Yeah, what he said was that I believe he developed it on HTML5.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of system does not translate to the Switch. So if he brought it over, he would have to use a whole different means of getting it ported. I mean, he would have to switch HTML5 to something else, which is a tremendous amount of work. Which I'll give him that. So what he decided to do I mean, I predicted this could happen, but I didn't know the status of the creator, if he had the money or, the know-how and how the right people to call. I didn't know. But I said a possibility that he could do is he could hire another company to port it for him, and they will do the work on getting it to work on Switch. And that looks like that's what happened. Someone I know said that they hired another company to port it, and that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And another funny thing, What?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I already know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the creator of this game has a very interesting sense of humor. He she I don't know the name exactly, but he she said uh, the only way this game will get ported to Switch is if hedgehogs fly, and hedgehogs are like a normal enemy in the
Hmm.
game. So right after the trailer was over, it had hedgehogs flying
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right
in the
now. Yeah.
game, and the two main and the main character and the supporting character are just looking at it and just like acknowledging it's flying. And I'm like, good sense of humor. Good sense of humor.
Yeah, he admitted like, okay, we made it happen. I'm curious if, because I assumed what had happened was, uh, like he said this was never going to happen because it was going to be too difficult to do. We don't have enough resources, etc. And then I assumed there was so much buzz around this game that Nintendo approached them and was like, "We'll help you port it." Because
I
I
don't
feel
know
like
if
that,
it's Nintendo in particular you talk
or
to.
if just maybe a publisher out there, maybe or another studio just saw this and was like, "We'll help you. Just give us a cut." I
Hmm.
don't know, because I see a lot of these indie games that end up transferring over to the Switch, and I can't. I keep thinking like some of them like I know Shadows of Adam is coming over to the Switch, and like that's a team of like two people, and I'm like, and they have like full-time jobs and stuff. So I'm trying to imagine, them doing that by themselves must be crazy. Cosmic Star Heroine that came over to the Switch, so I was assuming that like Nintendo was like reaching out to them like, we want more games, we'll help you port it or something along those lines. But I don't know for sure. But at least we do know it's happening for sure. It's going to be coming out this year. We don't know specifically. It just says 2019. But
I would imagine more near the end of the year, if
yeah.
because Crosscode actually just came out recently.
Hmm.
So the decision to port it to Switch probably came after, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And they probably just started developing it not too long ago, or developing the port of it. So
Yeah.
my guess, fall or winter 2019.
Now to give some credence to like an independent company approaching them to help them. I do see on their website for the announcement of the Crosscode, confirmation announcement post. This is on their actual website. They put under that, and this is a exact quote that says, "And since some people already asked about it, we did not forget about the PS4 port. It's still being worked on." So it's also coming to the PS4, which I had no idea. But that's kind of cool. I'll definitely pick it up on the Switch. But this is a game in which I really, really enjoyed. I'm still working my way through it just because we've had various games come out. But one of the biggest things I think about every time I play it is, man, this would be great on the Switch because it's very, very action based, but it's very like, it just naturally is inclined to the Joy-Cons on the Switch. It just feels like that would feel really, really good. The art style is perfect for, being on the go with the kind of larger screen that the Switch has. And I was thinking about that as early as last week. I was playing it a little bit and I was like, man, this game needs to come out on the Switch. I'm so depressed that the developer said this was not going to happen. And then when you messaged me and you're like, oh, it's coming out on the Switch, I was just like, yes, thank God. Because
Need some
like
of that
that,
Switch goodness.
yeah, because honestly, like as much as I like playing on PC, sometimes I don't want to be sitting on like in front of my computer playing it on PC. I would rather like kind of be like lounging in like an armchair or like playing it in bed or playing it on my big 4K television. Like I don't want to just be strapped down to my PC playing a game. I mean,
Oh,
especially when the game doesn't need to be. I mean, it's a very beautiful game, but it does not require PC specs to play it.
yeah, it's well, the why it makes so much sense to put it on the Switch is the fact that it's a very pick up and put down type of game. Like it has like an abundance of side quests like per major area you go to. So like you can pick it up like if you're out and about somewhere and you
Hmm.
can pick it up, you can take care of a side quest and you can turn it in and then you can turn the game off.
Yeah.
It's set up that way where it doesn't you don't feel compelled to put but so many hours into it and still feel like you got progress done.
Yeah, you could just play a little bit and put it down. You don't have to do like a 7-hour marathon to feel like you accomplished something, which is a positive to the game. So I agree with you,
Mhm.
man. It's perfect for the Switch, and I'm just happy it's happening.
I
I,
technically own it for PC, but I really want to play on the Switch. So I'm just
a lot of these
gonna
indie
wait for
games,
that.
they're getting me, like, because like I bought Cosmic Star Heroine on PC, then I bought that on the Switch. I bought Undertale on PC, then I bought that on the Switch. I bought Cosmic Star Heroine. I'm gonna buy it on the Switch. Like I bought Hyper Life Drifter on the PC. I bought it on the Switch. Like it's just like I'm buying these games twice and I don't care. But I see a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but occasionally you'll see people that get mad or that are complaining at Nintendo for putting these indie games on the Switch because they want to see bigger games announced. And I really, I hope people don't crap over this announcement or haven't been, because like that's just a stupid argument. I mean, you can have both. You can have these indie games which are really really cool, really enjoyable to play. You can have them come to the Switch, and you can still have bigger games come to the Switch. It's not like because indie games are coming to the Switch, they're not working on the AAA games either. So I want Nintendo to keep doing this because this is really really cool.
Person, they're AAA games. They
Yeah,
come out
I
with
don't.
something like every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, it's not like they're like, okay, guys, we can't work on the next Zelda game because we're porting Crosscode. Like,
I mean, I can
like
think
I
off the top
don't.
of my head. There's gonna be a
Yeah,
new Animal Crossing this year. There's gonna be a new mainline Fire Emblem coming out this year.
yeah.
What else was there? I just had it in my head and it just escaped me. Yeah, I mean, like Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem. Um, I had another game in my head and it just completely
Luigi's
escaped me.
Mansion,
Luigi's Mansion 3, yes, that's another one. That's slated for 2009. And then
Metroid Prime 4. Oh,
uh I just had
Pokemon.
something else in my head too.
Isn't
But
Pokemon? Wait, don't we have a
yes,
Pokemon game?
mainline Pokemon is slated for
Yeah,
2019. So that's already 4 games, and there's a fifth one, a Yoshi Switch game.
yeah,
Um, I believe there's a Switch Kirby Switch game in the works. They haven't said much about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming up from Nintendo themselves, and of course, there's going to be some AAA games coming to the Switch from third-party developers. I mean, the
hmm
console is so successful. Of course, there's going to be ones on there, but I mean, I guess technically the best way you're going to play the games is like PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, but you know, the Switch is there for the portable aspect of it
yeah,
mainly. So if you want to play a game on the go and willing to drop specs a little bit, then there you go.
yeah. Absolutely. Daniel says Switch is an indie machine for sure, and I think we both agree. It's absolutely suited for it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll have to stay tuned to that and like really look out for a release date. But it's definitely going to be a day one purchase for me because I'm assuming that it's going to be a digital purchase like everything else when with these indie games. That's the only disappointing part about the Switch is, and I was reading an article on this, and I actually saw a follow up video on it that was really informative from Spawnwave. But the one downside to the Switch is because they went with the cartridge basic games that uh, a lot of game developers are have to come to realization that like the carts are kind of expensive, right? And so for like for example, Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age, they're having to split that into two, where you put the card in and then you download the rest of the game onto your Switch because they can't fit it onto a 32 gigabyte cartridge. And there's bigger cartridges, 64 gigabyte, 120 gigabyte, etc. But uh, they're expensive right now, right? And it would make the game cost more. So with these indie games, like I feel like they're digital release is really the only realistic option, because for them to sit there and like try to line that up and have like a actual physical cart version of their game and have to pay for the upfront cost of that and everything, it's probably a little too much. But I guess that's not really a downside with the Switch. That's just a downside of them being small. But I don't mind. I don't mind digital versions of these games. Really don't mind at
Sometimes
all.
you get a physical copy if the game's successful enough. Like Hollow Knight got a
Mhm.
physical
I did see,
after
yeah,
the
and I
digital version.
at Best Buy I did see a physical edition of Undertale as well. Because that game sold tons of copies, so I almost bought that just to have it. But
Yeah, at
I
that
already,
point, it's more for collection reasons. Like most
yeah,
people already have it digitally on their console.
yeah, I already owned it twice, and yeah, enough said.
Or someone who has a super strict physical copy code.
Yeah. So I know a lot of times these indie games will have like a pre-release where they'll have like maybe like 100 physical editions of the game or something like that for hardcore collectors that want to pay like a fortune to get it to help support the development of the game. But um, outside of that, primarily digital, and I'm fine with it. Should we transition into the non RPG section of the podcast, the Metroid Prime 4 news?
I'll make some excuse to make it seem like our.
No, it's
Yes.
all good. I wanted to talk about this too, so I'm glad we can kind of shimmy it in here. So go ahead.
So back in E3 2017, we got finally announced Metroid Prime 4, uh, a sequel to a series that we've been really wanting, one we've heard rumors about, and we're generally excited about it. And yet, while Nintendo didn't officially announce it, we did find out through other sources that they were joining with Bandai Namco to make the game,
Hmm.
which seemed a little off for a second because Retro Studios did the first three,
Yeah.
but we're like, okay, well, maybe Retro's busy. We'll see what Bandai Namco makes, and we'll judge it from there. And um,
And Nintendo's not going to let hopefully crap come out the door.
yeah, so E3 2018 comes around, and we're all thinking like, okay, it has to be here. They teased it 2017. They're gonna have to show it off more here. Show nothing. Don't even mention Metroid Prime 4. At least I don't remember them mentioning. So we're kind of left in the dark about it. We're hoping that it comes through like a Nintendo Direct, or come through. Yeah, hoping it comes through a Nintendo Direct, and we get a 2019 release date for it. Turns out that's not the case. So a couple days ago, Nintendo themselves came out and gave an announcement that the original Metroid Prime 4 not only is being delayed, but the original game is being completely scrapped, like thrown in the garbage, scrapped, and being built from the ground up again
Yeah.
by a different studio. And because the previous studio they were working with did not like the quality of the game and decided to just completely trash all the work, break the deal with them, and they went back to Retro Studios, the creator of the first three games, and they brought Metroid Prime back to him and said, "Start working on it again." But
Pretty
here's
please.
here's the interesting part about all this. Nintendo is so transparent with this on this. They release a YouTube video and they explain in detail, well, not perfectly detailed, but enough information to let us not be in the dark about what's going on, like wondering why we're in year 2020 and nothing has come yet of Metroid Prime 4. And but now we know that it got canceled because it just wasn't meeting quality standards. And it's being brought back to the team that made it before. I don't think the same exact people who made it. A
Hmm.
lot of people have left over the years, but Retro still has a really good track line. So I believe their philosophy on making a quality game is still intact. They haven't given me a reason to think otherwise. Like their
Right.
last game, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, amazing game. Love that
Yeah.
game to death. So ridiculously good. Like it's better than like I think it's better than like the newer 2D Mario's that have come out. Like they're that
Awesome.
much better. But they're very transparent about it, and I say thumbs up to them. I think that was the best way to handle a situation like this. They're transparent with us. We know now to uh, that it's going to come a little later, 2021, but um,
Did they confirm
I'm cool with it.
2021, or we're just guessing?
We're just guessing.
Educated guess, yeah.
Educated guess. It could be 2022. Uh, but I'm excited now. Still, I like to see what Retro will come up with now.
Yeah, like when I was kind of looking at this situation, because I'm not the biggest fan of this series, and I don't hate it. I'm just I haven't really picked up on them too much. But looking from the outside in, I found it kind of like I found the positive side of it was just like you said. Nintendo was so transparent. They haven't been transparent about this type of stuff in the past. They really let the fans know what was going on, and they allowed everyone to kind of like get to the the logical end to what they're allowed them to kind of work it out themselves and be like, okay, like what would I do in this situation? The game wasn't very good when we went to go look at it. Should we put out a bad game and you get to play it this year? That doesn't make sense, right? You would just be mad. So okay, we'll wait because it's going to be good now, right? That's something that's really really cool, right? But at the same time, like they've made like a little bit like hints here and there. I believe there was like a little bit of a basically showed like the logo or something like that, I think, of the game for an announcement. So like I feel like by that point in time, like the game has already been in development for probably 2 years.
Yeah,
maybe
roughly.
Yeah, so like this just baffles me. Like, did you not check in earlier than that? Like like at what point do you realize this thing's going off the rails,
Likely Nintendo said more than once, you've got to completely change this.
Yeah, I'm sure they were criticizing them the whole time until finally they were just like,
probably
okay,
after
this
the
just
third
isn't
or
working.
fourth time, they were probably like, okay, we've just come to the conclusion that you guys cannot do anything to fix this. This is mediocre. We're gonna have to take it back from you. We're gonna have to trash it, and we're gonna have to give it back to Retro, who could probably do a much better job than you. And it's not so much a criticism of Bandai Namco, assuming they're the ones who are doing it. There's just some companies that can understand a particular product more than, because they collaborated with Bandai Namco on Smash Bros. Ultimate, and that game's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just possible that in this particular case, with this particular game, they just did not have the right mindset for it.
Yeah. Well, I will give them credit, just like you said, that they did come out and were transparent about it. At least it wasn't like with the Final Fantasy VII Remake debacle where you had to hear about it from like an offhand comment from from somebody in like a totally unrelated interview. We're pulling this back from CyberConnect 2. It's going in house. At least this was a very responsible way to tell the fan base, and really, it was a very respectful way to do it, and like I feel like it probably made a bad situation better than worse.
Yeah, and to add on to what you said with the FF7 remake, I hope this inspires other companies to be more transparent when things happen. So, say for example that the CyberConnect thing happened now. Tetsuya Nomura makes a Square Enix video, and he's like, "Hey guys, we were trying to work with CyberConnect 2. It just wasn't meeting the quality that we wanted. So we're bringing Final Fantasy VII to in-house, and unfortunately, we do have to start a couple things over again, and the game's going to take longer to release. But we had to ensure that we give you a quality product that meets the Final Fantasy name." I think being that transparent with people just makes your company look a lot better, and in a way competent.
We got
Hi, Hironobu.
Yeah, we got Sakaguchi in the chat.
We got the gooch.
So maybe if you got some pointers, you can let us know.
Hey, where's my Last Story HD, Last Story 2?
Why did you cancel Terra Battle 2?
No, we got Terra Battle 2. He just got rid of it.
Anyways, so yeah, You know, it was really weird. Like I heard about this and like I was reading online, everyone was really really mad, and then like I checked back like 2 days later, and everybody was like very like they were like clapping for Nintendo and being like, they're such good people. Like this was a really good thing of them, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts. I do think that if they're going to be transparent like this, it would be good of them to be more transparent in the future with this game, because people are already curious about it. I've seen jokes like, "Is it going to come out in the next decade?" Obviously, it's going to come out in the next decade, right? But it would be really cool if they can show us progress update. How's this game coming? It would kind of suck if this was like the last thing you heard about this game for the next 2 years, right?
I have a feeling the moment they have enough progress in development to show something off, they will. I think they'll make a Nintendo Direct
Yeah,
to show it off, or show it off at E3.
yeah.
Because I'm sure they'll be just as eager to show what they got going as we're eager to see it.
What is kind of crappy for Nintendo is, I'm sure you saw, and this isn't the crappy part, but I'm going to get to the crappy part. In December, they sold 1.8 million units of their Switch console, which is amazing. And they're on track to hit their 20 million mark, possibly by the end of this quarter, which would be just very very impressive. The Switch is killing it, and given the PS4 and the Xbox One are at the kind of like the end of the life cycle for their console, and they're not, Sony's not even going to E3. This is the opportunity for Switch to really just like take the front stage and really like push it over the edge, because they're not at the end of their life cycle. Like they're just getting this party started, right? And they've had some great years thus far. So what are they going to have to show this year to like really like knock it out of the park, now that Sony's not even going to go to E3? Who knows what Xbox is going to do, but they ain't got nothing to really talk about besides their free Game Pass, which is pretty awesome. But outside of that, like, what do they got? Like Sea of Thieves being like redone. Like, I'm being, a little devil's advocate here with that, but like, there's really not much to say about that. So this is an opportunity for the Switch to really just crush it, even more so. And I'm afraid like that they were counting on Metroid Prime 4 to come out this year, maybe at the end of the year, and people are going to be hyped about that. And this kind of put it back a little bit. So like we're kind of going over the games they got now, and it's like Luigi's Mansion 3. I guess they got Pokemon. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, Nintendo's fine.
But like that's not like, I'm 30 years old. I'm not going to lose my mind over a Pokemon game. Like it might be fun, it might be nostalgic, but that's not going to keep me up at night.
I'm 30-year-olds, dude.
Well,
not me, but just saying.
Yeah.
So I spoiled myself. Is spoilers banned? What did you spoil yourself on? If it's Phantasy Star 2, I waived all spoilers before then.
So Kingdom Hearts 3, we're not going to spoil Kingdom Hearts 3 because we have not played it yet. Earlier we talked about our expectations for the game and some of the early review scores, but we haven't checked out any of the plot points or anything. Eric kind of theorized about a couple things very lightly, nothing too crazy. So
the only Kingdom Hearts
spoilers.
3 knowledge I have is ones shown in official trailers. I have not watched anyone play the game. I have not watched any cutscenes of the game. I have no knowledge of it. I can't spoil you even if I want.
Well, Sora is going to be in the game, so.
Come on, man.
I know. I'm sorry, guys. Might as well not buy it now.
Yeah.
And there may be some Disney characters,
Anyways, buy it then throw it in the garbage now.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess Pokemon might be the draw they'll have this year, but that's I feel like that's not going to be. How much overlap is there between Metroid Prime 4 consumers and Pokemon? That's a very different audience. I feel like I'm sure there is some overlap because Pokemon is such a huge franchise, but
Yeah,
That'd have been
Metroid's
cool if
nowhere near as big as Pokemon, but it has its fan base. And Nintendo's just realizing that now, so I'm sure we're going to see a lot more in the future. Samus Returns sold very well on the 3DS,
mhm.
so I'm very sure they're going to drop more. And I think they're seeing that Metroid fans are definitely there. They want to keep them happy.
Yeah. Um, but we'll have to see if there's any updates with that, and hopefully we get to see some kind of progress update. I'm sure it's going to be just like you said. Once they have something they feel comfortable with, they'll show us. The question is, when will they be comfortable?
You know, what would be the perfect apology from them.
What's that?
They released the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Switch.
I've seen some people talking about that, and I don't know why they're not doing that.
They should do that. We don't know if they're going to do that, but they definitely should. Sometime between now and the release of Metroid Prime 4, like maybe a year or 2 years before 4 comes out, they release that, and the Wii controls can translate to the Joy-Cons controls just fine,
Easily, yeah.
and I'm sure they could make a controller configuration for the first 2 games. I'm not sure about 3 because 3 was built specifically for Wii's motion controls.
Hmm.
I guess it's possible to convert a couple of things, but that would require some work to the game itself. So I don't know
You're
if they
looking,
would. I don't know if they would make Joy-Con holding mandatory or not.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they could figure something out. I mean, you're looking at a company that has a game that you buy a Pokeball with and you can throw it. Like, they're pretty creative. So
Or maybe they can go the extra mile and show off a couple of things they're doing in 4 and convert it uh to the HD trilogy. Be like, hey, we're adding the mode that we're doing in Metroid Prime 4 to give you a taste of it. That would be cool. I don't think they would, but that would be
yeah. So there's a lot of different routes they could go, kind of get people excited again. Um, I do think that they're kind of in the good graces right now with the fan base, but they definitely need to do something special, I think, soon, so they can kind of beat down some of this negativity that I'm starting to see sprawl up a little bit. You know, people were being a little congratulatory towards Nintendo being transparent, but you know, you're starting to see some of the comments that this game's in dev hell. It's not coming out for, you know, till the Switch 2, and like all these crazy comments that I don't think really are warranted yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get the doom and gloom. I mean, that's a thing. But me personally, I'm happy that they took something that was going to be potentially mediocre and do the right thing and give it to someone who they believe will set things right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, all right, so let's move on here. We have
Hold on.
uh,
Can you guys cook me a burger? My Miss Walker employees overthrew me and have me locked in the dungeon. Send help. I was like, oh, well,
this is
Gooch,
Sakaguchi, huh?
you promised a Last Story HD for the Switch and Last Story 2, and maybe I'll make a phone call. Maybe.
Is this dungeon called Pandemonium? If so, good luck. Glad you have Wi-Fi there.
Or Via Proifica.
Yeah, it's. Anyways, we have Demon Souls. What was I going to say with Demon Souls? Apparently, the creator or main developer of Demon Souls was quoted. Well, he did a whole interview, I should say, recently regarding the possibility of having a either a remake or a remaster of Demon Souls come out, and you know, that's the kind of precursor to Dark Souls, and there's a huge fan base behind that game. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And what are your thoughts, Eric?
Demon Souls is my second favorite.
Your second favorite? What's your
Bloodborne's
favorite?
my favorite. I know I'll get some people on me for that, but I enjoy Bloodborne's offensive approach to gameplay.
Mm,
But Demon Souls is my second. That's the first one I started with,
yeah,
and it's a really damn good game. For It's a little outdated feeling compared to the newer titles,
sure.
but as someone who played it during that time, I mean, the mechanics still feel just fine to me.
Yeah, I was playing it a couple months ago. Recently, I forgot I had the game and I found it in a box. And I was like, "Oh, dude, this is a good game." Uh, I don't know. Like, do you think just a simple remaster would be the way to go, or do you think if they just kind of rebuilt it like they did with
Well, the context of
some
it
of these other games?
is the person who created it feels uneasy about re-releasing it is because um, he doesn't like to look back at something necessarily in a way that he wants to go back to a product and improve upon things that were quote unquote outdated with it because
Hmm.
that was their first foray into that type of game, that those
Right.
type of games. Granted, they really hit the nail hard when it came out, but um, he feels like if he goes back and does work on it, that it'll lose a lot of charm that what people like about the game. And I definitely see that perspective. Um, so that leads me to think if he wants to release this for like people who um, like just went on the PS4, I think if he just did like a simple remaster and charge only like 10 like maybe $20 for it and not make it like the price of a full game.
Sure.
I think that would work. Um and it can still be like a niche digital only or title, maybe release a physical version in the future. I think that's something that would be okay for bare bones because I think a lot of people want that nostalgia trip of Demon Souls. I mean, granted,
Hmm.
you can still play on the PS, but of course, people want remasters of everything. So
Yeah.
if they bring it over, then I think that might be the right approach.
Yeah. It's kind of like a tricky scenario because it has to come out on the PlayStation, right? It's not like you could have a remaster on another console because Sony owns the rights to Demon Souls, right?
Yes.
That's what I was reading, anyways. So it's kind of tricky with that, and a lot of times I think with a game like this, it'd be really cool if we got like a remastered version on PC because it might move a little smoother. But that's obviously not going to happen. So um, it would have to be on the PS4, and it just feels a little strange to me when you have these remasters from a PlayStation 3 game coming out on the PlayStation 4 because like dude, I grew up with like a Nintendo, right? So when I play a PlayStation 3 like game, like a lot of times they still look pretty good to me on my TV. So like I'm like it does look better. Like when they remastered The Last of Us for the PS4, like I was like, well, this does look better, but it's not like the same thing as remastering like like Final Fantasy X for the PS4, right? It's not quite the leap uh, between consoles, but I think if they could do like a PS5 remaster, early release, that would be really really cool.
Yeah, it's.
But I'm sure like if they did it for the PS4, it would sell plenty well.
I think if you do that many changes to a game to modernize it more, I think you might as well make Dark Souls 4.
Yeah,
If that's the case, because I see that because that's a game you would have to make a lot of revisions to meet like the gameplay of Dark Souls 3. Like
hmm
Demon Souls works perfectly fine in its own context, but I guess developers feel like they have a certain responsibility to tighten things up or improve certain aspects of a game. I don't think you necessarily need to. Maybe in the technical or bug department, but you don't need to change the gameplay that much. I think if you just market it the way it is, like play this classic title again,
yeah,
just be very transparent with people and just release as it is, maybe with better frame rate and resolution, and
yeah.
bring online mode back because
That'd
they
be
shut
cool.
down the online mode on uh, the original version. So
Yeah, so there's definitely uh, some demand out there for that, and there's an audience out there for remaster if they're going to do it. I'm honestly like once you sent me this, and the more I'm thinking about this, like I'm kind of surprised they haven't done this already. It just seems to make sense. it seems like easy money, you know?
Yeah, especially after they did Dark Souls remastered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you would
mean,
think they would do, and the PS4 port of Dark Souls too. So I don't know if there's any specific reason or any trouble with Sony on getting it ported. I guess in a way they would, like, maybe just a whole debacle on trying to get it like ported like through multiple consoles, because you would have to go through Sony. It would have to be PS4 exclusive, assuming that Sony still owns the right, complete rights to it,
mm,
exclusivity right, or to say.
yeah. So, I'm sure, they'll do it, and I'm sure we'll we'll hear about it because, like we're saying, like it makes perfect sense.
I'll
So,
just say this: I'll buy it.
yeah, I would check it out.
Mm-hmm.
We had some comments last week. I'm cool with moving to that. Let me get over to it real quick. This is a really good chat last week on Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, thanks again, Ian, for coming on. If you're watching,
Yeah, that was awesome. I really like his point of view on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really, really cool. And another Eden, by the way, which, like we talked about before, that's coming out tomorrow.
You're playing that tomorrow, whatever time I have again with it for Kingdom Hearts 3.
I'm gonna have to delete some stuff off my phone to be able to play it.
I'm probably playing it more during work. Like if I
Yeah,
have some downtime at work, I'll pull my tablet out.
yeah. I know it's coming out on the Switch too, so that'll probably be one I'll buy on there as well. So,
I
or I'll
was
pick up.
I was upset they don't have a resolution for the tablet versions. You can
Mm-hmm.
download it on your tablet, but the resolution is built for phones. So
Yeah.
you get it like in a square box type of deal.
So it's
Kind
not.
of
It's
like if
not.
you're watching boxed widescreen.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what. This isn't. This isn't what I wanted. Yeah, I get you.
A little disappointed, but it is what it is. I'll deal with it.
Yeah. All right. Let me go here real quick.
Sorry, you got no Wi-Fi, Gooch.
Apparently, the Gooch has no Wi-Fi in the dungeon, but he's able to project himself to speak with us. So we appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah.
So we had some longer comments from Cerez Cipher, and I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. I feel like I've been saying it wrong for months, but you've never corrected me, so I'm gonna keep saying it wrong until you correct me.
Is there a sum up version to? Like I read them, but
well, I'll quickly go through it here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that long.
Okay.
But anyways, so he kind of had some disagreements with Heon a little bit about Final Fantasy VII's or Advent Children's comments last week. So real quick, he says, I have several comments related to Advent Children. Even if Cloud in original Final Fantasy VII hanging from the broken reactor bridge should have incredible strength, the little shard he's hanging onto could be fragile enough that him pulling down on it hard enough to lift his and the Buster Sword weight could snap it. When Cloud fights using Fusion Sword in Advent Children, he does many of the fights with only individual swords and the 6 pieces set or incomplete combinations of them. The incomplete combination is going to weigh less than the Buster Sword, and he is fighting other people with similar strength. There are several moments when I think you feel the weight of it, when Cloud is first repelled by Bahamut Sen, but then he tacks on an additional sword and goes back in, gets above him, and basically does Braver, smashing him in the eye and cracking the carapace around it and sending the dragon falling to the ground, falling off the building after Kadaj as he transforms, and the fusion sword clashing with the Masamune in the depth of the dent that it puts in the structure. So anyways, he's going on about that specific scene here.
He goes really scientific to try to get past a plot hole. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can argue with he has one more point after that, but I don't know if I can argue with the logic. I do think that maybe you are correct. Maybe they did add a little tidbits in there to make a case to be had that there is some realism in there. But there's plenty of scenes in that movie where it's a little absurd. I know we did bring up that one scene with him hanging off, like there's no way that would be able to happen as an example. But I can think of several examples, like early in the game when they shoot Cloud in the face and the bullet hits his glasses, and like only his glasses break, and like I'm like, what? Like, what kind of glasses are those that you're blocking a bullet at like point blank range? And the fact that like you can like go up in the air and like shoot somebody from like upside down, and like you're staying in air long enough to like aim, like so like it's an over the top movie, and I'm not saying that makes it bad. It is entertaining to watch, but I do see what you're saying though with maybe that wasn't the best example. Uh,
I mean,
but
the main argument is that the style that Advent Children approaches just seems so disconnected from Final Fantasy VII, because you never see Cloud do crazy jump flips or on the motorcycle that like you're doing all the crazy stuff they did where he just flips up in the air, slices a motorcycle in half, and like gets back on it.
yeah.
I mean, crazy stuff like that is not in the movie, and there's not really anything in Final Fantasy VII that tells you that this is the kind of crazy action that these characters are capable of doing. So when you do that, it feels really disconnected if you compare the two stories. And we can argue about it being, just PS1 limitations, but you have to look at what the intent of the developers of the story was. Did Hironobu Sakaguchi and his team think to themselves, well, we can't portray cool action flips and jumping on top of buildings and crazy motorcycle fights to the extent to a crazy cartoon-like extent. I think they built these characters from the ground up to be relatively grounded and realistic to an extent. Like, I know the materia helps enhance these characters' abilities and strength and what they can do,
Hmm.
but I think they still made it realistic to a point of how would people like you and I be if we had materia fixed to us. I don't think I'd be jumping on top of my ceiling. I think
Yeah.
maybe I can carry a Buster Sword in my maybe
He
if I
does
had
go on.
materia fixed onto me.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, but he does go on to say that the action in the movie is he does acknowledge is pretty much all over the top, but he did point out also that he felt like the movie has a lot of contrast, which is kind of the argument being made about why it didn't mesh well with the original game, Final Fantasy VII. Whereas the original game had a lot of contrast, right? Like, you know, not all moves were super flashy. Like, Knights of the Round was more flashy than, your regular attack, and that's like what made it exciting. But he does point out several of the characters tend to struggle a little bit more than Cloud does while attacking, and I mean he gives very deep details here about some of the differences that some of the characters struggle with one action, and Cloud uh, doesn't necessarily struggle as much, and it kind of gives some of that contrast that maybe the original game had. And I think I feel like you just watched this movie yesterday because this is very very detailed, and it's really kind of changed my mind a little bit. But I do see what you're saying here, and that there is some of that contrast there if you're looking for it. So
Yeah, it's more like I'm presenting the argument instead of more siding. I mean, I'm more on the side of Ian's argument of
mhm.
Final Fantasy VII. But
Well, me
if
too, but
people, I mean, it is Having Children is what it is. If you enjoyed it, if you think it's a great sequel to Final Fantasy VII itself, I mean, that's fine. We're just speaking more of like like does the transition feel natural to the
yeah.
movie? Like, does this feel like stuff that was in Final Fantasy VII? And just my personal opinion, it just feels very disjointed. But but there's people enjoying the movie, and you can make justifications because that's just how it's written. I mean, it's been written to uh, be the way it is.
Yeah,
So,
is what
on
it
a
is.
technical standpoint, I'm not in the right, but on a narrative principle, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, totally feel you. He's another comment. He's got some separate comments about Kingdom Hearts, so we can kind of get into that, especially given the theme of this week and next. So he says Kingdom Hearts combat has contrast between regular moments and big moments. You start the games with a basic combo of 3 mundane sword swings, and it escalates over the course of the game. At the beginning, you aren't making a hilarious light show. He puts that in quotes. As you progress, you do gain regular attacks and have flashy effects like more powerful combo finishers in Kingdom Hearts 2, but you can contrast that with where you were at the start of the game, and it's a visual cue of your progress. You see the flashier attack, and it just feels more powerful. I still wouldn't say just those attacks rise to the level of hilarious light show. The things do rise to that level tend to be special attacks that require a resource you build up over time, like a drive from a summon or a summon. The difference between regular attacks where you're doing a few swings or a keyblade and something like Final Form where you're levitating around and telekinetically controlling two keyboards, two keyblades, and you swoop and spin them around to attack is noticeable. And the latter is a light show, but you're not in the state often enough to be spamming it. Another way you can have contrast is just the variety, things that are conceptually different and not necessarily different power levels. Just seeing new things, new ideas is often enjoyable, and going over the top with combat can facilitate that. You throw out some constraints of realism, you have more possibilities, more opportunity to portray things and are new or varied. The Keyblade's transformations and birth by sleep and appearing to be in Kingdom Hearts 3 gives you a variety in your attack capabilities, and sometimes it's a unique way of attacking that isn't in many other games. Almost there. And the bosses are not all just easy HP sponges. Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts 2 is a great and fair challenge, and some of the bosses you need to be paying attention to and figuring out how you can trigger their contextual reaction commands. And there's the Phantom at London and Kingdom Hearts 1, where you have to make it vulnerable by hitting it with the right spells. They also let you pick a difficulty level, and some normal enemies can be threats on higher difficulties that require more than just mindless attacking.
I think he really took everything I said out of context pretty badly.
Yeah.
I think when I said hilarious light show, I think what I actually meant was over the top action and the way it's presented. And that's not an insult towards it at all. If anything, that's a compliment
Seems like an
because
insult to me. No, I'm just
Kingdom
kidding.
Kingdom Hearts has the satisfaction of feeling good when you hit someone with that keyblade and able to make it look good also at the same time.
Yeah.
If there's any real strength to Kingdom Hearts combat system, is that it always feels good. It feels well more with two than one, but Kingdom Hearts 2, like it just feels really good to just take down a group of enemies. The more you get abilities throughout the game, like by the end of the game, like their Kingdom Hearts 2 is an incredible action game. I don't remember what I said about HP Sponge. I really don't remember what I said about that. You might have to remind me.
I think that may have
But
been something Heon was saying, but I think he's going along the lines of,
did he?
um,
Did he say it?
yeah, I think, and I think it was along the lines of he kind of quit Kingdom Hearts 2 when after he beat 1 and he played 2, and then he quit 2 when he realized that uh, there wasn't as much strategy as he wanted, and like he felt like a lot of the boss battles were, I'm paraphrasing here, this isn't exactly how he said it, but that a lot of the bosses were merely just like HP sponges, or they felt really HP spongy. And I've heard that a lot, not just from Hyun. I've heard that from a lot of people, a lot of reviews, that they felt like some of the earlier games, um, it just, they felt like all they were doing is just hitting something over and over and over again. And there wasn't like a lot of thought behind it. And I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. I'm sure that, there's better bosses and there are not so good bosses. And sometimes you can have good bosses that are HP spongy at the same time too. So
I will say he is right in that. I'm going to speak normal mode specifically, not proud
mhm.
mode or anything like that. what a lot of Kingdom Hearts 2 fights are very easy from beginning near the end of the game. A lot of the bosses are not hard to take down at all by any means. You don't really need to learn how to guard or counterattack or have any specific setup for a certain boss fight to turn the tides in your favor. You can really go with what you decided to put on and you can make it work. It's when you get to the super bosses like Sephiroth or um, the silhouettes of the Organization 13 members or Lingering Will. This is when this is the point of the game, or even arguably the one-on-one fights in the story, like um, Sora versus Roxas, like in the
Hmm.
final mix version. That's a really hard fight, and that's a fight that you need to, even on normal mode, need to learn how some of your skills work. That's
Hmm.
a real introduction to
Yeah.
what's going to be given to you, and there is a lot. And each boss fight is very unique, and you really got to shift your strategy and how you play the game to have any real chance of beating it, especially on harder mode games. Like even on normal mode, it's like, okay, let me turn my way into a negative combo type thing because this boss reacts very quickly back. So I want to get my combos in fast and get away type of deal. And that's the point in the game where you really have to strategize and really get your skills up. Especially Lingering Will. Oh man, that is a boss fight of boss fights in the Kingdom Hearts series. That is a really hard one to beat.
Yeah.
Even if your character's level 99, you have God mode, best weapons, the right abilities on, that is a fight you trial and error. So, yes, but but I guess if he did say that, he's also right then that the majority of the story campaign, unless you switch it to proud mode,
Hmm.
is it's very easy. There's nothing really thought provoking. It's really hard to lose, actually.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when I think the kind of summary of some of these arguments, I would say, is just, a lot of times when people make a specific argument, uh, they'll either overemphasize it to kind of send the point home, or maybe they're focusing not necessarily that the game didn't have something like contrasting ideas. They're just saying that if there was more, right? If there was a greater amount of that, or if there was more strategy, or there was less HP in those bosses, that the game would be even better than it is. I'm not saying that he was saying Kingdom Hearts 2 was great because he stopped playing it, but could be anything, any one of those things. And sometimes just looking at games and asking yourself, like, well, this is good, but what else could make it better? You can be a good discussion. So, um, then we have one further comment from Leanne. She says, I have a question though. It isn't about any of the other topics discussed today. Do you think you ever cover more topics for a longer discussion? One of my favorite podcasts is the Game Informer Show because their podcasts sometimes go up to 3.5 hours and they cover so many topics. Also, will you guys please talk about Deltarune? It was my favorite RPG of last year. I know it's only chapter 1, but there are no cliffhangers, and in all honesty, it's self-contained and doesn't need any further chapters, though I gladly welcome more. It's only a few hours long, the text and battle is full of flavor, and it's free to boot. Won't you please consider giving it a chance? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. First part of
Oh,
that, go ahead.
well, I know you already commented or gave her a comment to it,
Mhm.
but my personal take on the 3.5 hour thing,
Yeah,
um, that's a lot for just me and Hat ourselves to take on. We can already talk for a significant amount. Like we're already hitting like 2 hours now, almost. I think.
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But hitting 3.5 to 4 hours is really hard for just two people to pull off, unless we have like a long range of topics to talk about. And even
Yeah.
then, my voice can only give but so
My
much.
Right now, like when we end this podcast, the first thing I'm going to go do is drink a glass of water because my mouth is so dry right now.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take a jug of water and chug it down after
Just like,
this.
for like 2
But
minutes. Yeah.
I think I'd be more open to that if we ever decided in the future. Not saying we are, just saying in regards particularly to your question.
Sure.
If we ever got like additional people, like say 3 or 4 people on the podcast as opposed to just us two, then it
Mhm.
will probably naturally extend itself that much longer
Yeah, because
to the 3 hour mark.
last week's podcast, Hian joined us, and we've noticed from other podcasts, when we had a guest on, uh, you just need less topics, and it naturally tends to go a little bit longer because, you got a third person there giving their take on everything. So, but yeah, that is a long time for us to talk. Perhaps one day we'll have a podcast that is that long, or maybe in the future. Bless you.
Thank you.
Maybe in the future, we might have a few more people on, and we can kind of stretch things out a little bit. One thing they do cover a lot of topics. I've watched the Game Informer Show podcast before. It's a very good podcast. But they swap in like 12 different journalists through the span of like one episode. And, after 3.5 hours, you've had, 12 different faces on there. And, it's these people's full-time job to play games and review them. So it's a really good show, and I definitely recommend you go check that out. You can watch the video version online, and it's really, really good stuff. In regards to Deltarune, I kind of gave my off the cuff remarks at the beginning of this episode. I think you're wanting like a more like in-depth look at it with like spoilers and stuff like that. And Leanne, you're one of our biggest commenters with our podcast. We really appreciate it, and you even went back and listened to a lot of our really early stuff, and we're commenting on that as well. So we really, really appreciate it. So I think we'll definitely do that in the future. Probably not for a while because we have Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out and everything like that. But we hear you, and it's only a couple hours long. It's free, so I'm sure 1 week in the next couple of months, we're not going to know what to talk about, and we'll get around to covering it in more spoiler territory.
Yeah,
maybe
I
at the
think
end of a podcast or something.
Maybe we'll do something special, like for like popular game discussions. Like Kingdom Hearts 3 is gonna be a popular one. Maybe we can get 1 or 2 more people who are also big fans of the game to talk about it. Same with the FF7 remake,
Mhm.
something like that. And those will obviously extend to long periods of time on top of topics with that. So,
Yep. So, anyways, but I think that wraps us up. Yep, that's about it. So, anyways, next week we are going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 3. Obviously, me and Eric will have a couple of days in the books on the game,
it
and
will
we'll
be 100% spoiler free.
Yeah, 100% spoiler free. I'm glad you brought that up. So, if you have your own thoughts with Kingdom Hearts 3 while you're playing it this week, go ahead and write in the comment section of this video and let us know what you think. Please keep it spoiler free because you don't want to spoil it for us either. And we'll kind of give your thoughts we'll discuss your thoughts next week. But other than that, we will catch you all next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you to the chat. Thank you, Sakaguchi, for mentally projecting yourself to our podcast. We really appreciate it. We're honored to have your presence.
I look forward to that Suda 51 Mistwalker crossover game.
Yeah, well, you heard it first here on a Phoenix Edge RPG podcast. But anyways,
give me something good next time we're on.
Yep. But we'll catch you all later. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.